Hey, well, happy hump day. I'm very excited today to have two of my sisters in this world, in this business life, in from Obama land. We have been friends now for over a decade, close to 20 years at this point, which is wild. And it's Entrepreneurship Month. It's Women's Entrepreneurship Day. So, congratulations to both you and anyone else on this webinar who is an entrepreneur. So, I wanted to use the opportunity today, since it is Entrepreneurship Day. I'm sure both of you get asked a lot of questions about how you started your business, how you've maintained. And for me personally and professionally, you two are a big reason why I moved into this world. You both have helped me navigate, encouraged me to do it, tell me not to give up when it's hard. And it only made the most sense to me to honor the day with you two, because you two were there before my journey started. And I really wanted us to have an opportunity to talk with other women who are interested or even just thinking about entrepreneurship. So, first things first, when it comes to the chat, ladies, we ask that you engage throughout the conversation. We love that. We love dialogue. If you are ever so bold to come off camera, we'd love to see your faces. And we'll do a Q&A towards the end. So if people have questions, you can either drop them in the chat or you can come on and have a conversation with us. So before we get started, we're now getting started. So I'd like for Maria, can you quickly introduce yourself, talk about your background and what you do in your business?
Yes, Maria Anderson, co-founder and CEO of Marico Consulting with my husband, Rico Anderson. I started my career off on the Obama campaign as an organizer, traveling around the country. Then went to accounting, um, came to DC, still was doing accounting, ended up transferring over into the White House and did operations there. Um, I like to say when I'm talking about like my what all I've done is that I learned how to thrive within systems and then went to a startup. And that's really what taught me entrepreneurship. I learned how to build systems and then went to Planned Parenthood with community outreach group, and then decided to go off on my own. So now Marico Consulting, we do business operations. We like to say back in office in a box.
Mhm.
But we do that for small businesses, nonprofits, and trying to cross over into government contracting. So accounting, HR, risk management. That's what Marico
And
helps with.
how long have you had Marico? How long have you been in business?
Oh my goodness. So Marico started in 2018. I actually started it when Gillum was running in Florida.
Mhm, mhm,
And that's
mhm.
what really pushed me to start Marico. But yeah, so that's me.
All right. Amazing. I love hearing you talk about your story. Amanda?
Sure. Amanda Aguirre, her AI pronouns. I'm calling from Austin, Texas, the home of the Takao people, although these lovely ladies know me from the decade in DC when I was there. Been back home in Texas for about the last, oh my gosh, what, 6 years now?
Has it been that
I
long
can't believe
now?
it. I can't believe it.
Wow.
I am
Wow.
the CEO and co-founder of Rooted and Reimagined Strategies. We're a boutique consulting firm. We strive to serve mission-aligned organizations and are here to serve people. So half of our clients are frontline groups. The other half are philanthropic entities in which we advise on equitable giving. We've been around for about almost 5 years now, I think like 4.5-ish. And we continue to evolve, but we stay small, we stay focused, and we stay mission aligned so that we can advance. We're behind the scenes folks, and we love that so that we can build power for the folks who really need to lead. And in terms of me personally, I got to know these lovely ladies when I was in DC. I did several tours in Obama land, whether it was on the North Carolina campaign, HHS, CNCS, and then wrapped up my tours of duty at the White House, focusing on environmental justice and the Environmental Protection Agency as well. Came back around. There were some inaugurals, right? Transitions. other things in between,
Oh my
gubernatorial
goodness.
races, campaigns, nonprofits. But really, I focused my time on running teams, building things from the ground up, and advancing equity and justice focused work with my most recent in the last 5.5 years specialization in environmental justice in particular. But great to be here with y'all. I'm excited.
I
And you
know, this is
popped
so
back
good.
into the Biden
Divided.
administration, didn't
Yep,
I
you?
I was
did.
about to
I
say
did. See,
that.
it gets blurry when you enter
Right?
motherhood. It's all, I
Now,
did. I did the Biden-Harris transition,
You
and then
did.
I also served as senior advisor for environmental justice on the Biden-Harris White House CEQ team.
I love it. Well, as you all can see, this is why this conversation was necessary. You have these two powerhouses. I want you two to talk to me about what inspired your journey into entrepreneurship. How did you know it was the right time to start? What made you get there?
I'll be honest, for us, this was before Rico and I had children, and we were a two, what did I say, at the two salary
Oh,
income,
dual income.
Oh,
yeah, the
yeah.
dual income,
So no
and
children. Yeah.
right, and so
Oh
my
yeah, there's like an
background,
acronym for it.
listen, I guess it's a new one for like people that have fur babies. I forget what that one
Oh
was, but
God.
um, so yeah, so it really came out of necessity because we did it, accounting is my background. So I'm like, hey, um, we need a business. We need to start doing something on the side. Otherwise, a fourth of our funds are going to go to taxes. So really, that's how it started. I'm gonna be like really honest. And then it just grew into something way more bigger. Like I said, I started on the Gillum camp, and it was just doing what we all know to do on campaigns. And after that, it just slowly became helping one person, one company, helping another company. And before I knew it, I was like, oh shit, we don't have a business plan. This is a real business. Okay, now I need to apply all the things, what are we trying to do? It's good that Amanda said that, she wants to stay small, because a lot of times starting off, you don't really know what the end goal is. And especially if it's get started so fast where you don't have your business plan, you're just, going about it. And before you know it,
Mhm.
you got a business. But that's really where Marico comes in to play. And I mean, it happens with all my friends that end up saying they want to do a business. Um, I approach it in a way of like, you're really good at a technical skill, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're good at running a business. And I feel like I'm the friend that helps you run the business or connects you to all the things that you're not thinking about that I automatically think about. So Marico is really just rooted in purpose. It feels like I'm kind of back on the Obama campaign in '07 and '08, where we were traveling state to state, trying to change this country. And, that was like our biggest, I don't know about YouTube, but, that was a life-changing opportunity. And we got to see change. We got to be a part of change. We got to feel it and be in it and, wake up and go to sleep to it. And I think Marico kind of gives me that joy, like when we were on the campaign, because I do feel like a lot of us do need to have our own companies, and especially in our communities, um, we have the skills, the talent is there, but the operations and the education behind how a business runs is not there, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so for me, I feel like I'm kind of back on the campaign because I'm, teaching and trying to, push folks out of their comfort zone and letting them know, like, I got you. This is what you need to do. But hopefully that answered the question.
It
Yeah.
did. And I love that you said that. It's very fulfilling, and it's fulfilling in a way that I never connected it to that time, but that's right. I was so scared to do the jump into this, but there's a lot of feeling, especially when you can help organizations and electives for me, on my client side. Um, it still feels like I'm contributing, but I have a little bit more control over what the contribution looks like versus when we were in our 20s and just like going everywhere and doing everything and instituting boundaries. So I'm really glad you put that together. Amanda, what about you? What inspired your journey?
Yeah, I think that really resonated with me. I think the joy piece, and I think I'd add, I find it very healing. So I'm going to set a little stage. So it's similar to Maria, right? I did it for a reason, but not necessarily a planned reason, and I was definitely hesitant. So let me set some context, right? I had a 1-year-old, the pandemic hits. I'm a COO of a startup nonprofit in DC, remote working from Texas.
That's
No
right.
child care with that baby, fully breastfeeding exclusively. My mom had me at 16, and I'm from a working class or a poor family. There is nobody there to take care of my child. Everybody is at work.
Mhm.
And they were
Mhm.
frontline workers as well, being postal workers or
Mm.
in schools. So when you're faced with the fact that you have a full-time commitment, I had a full-time team, I was full fundraising, I had salaries and people depending on me, including a physical child. And for those of us who are and a husband who also have, some planning needs. And so that is all responsibility. And the math was just not adding up in hours of the day. And so I had to make a choice. And I wanted to do consulting for the flexibility of hours. I knew that I could deliver on the work, but I knew I needed the flexibility to be there for my kid and for my own needs when I needed that. And I needed control over my schedule. And so that's really what motivated me. And I just don't feel like I could do the job. I do a lot of leadership and teamwork, it's my specialty. And I knew I just didn't have the emotional or physical capacity to deliver in the way that my team expected me to. And so I made that transition. And then I incubated myself into a friendly consulting firm. They had always made the offer. They were a personal and professional friend. And I was like, you know what?
Mhm.
I'm not ready yet. I'm just going to try it out. And then I learned in 2.5 months, I can do this. And, a good mentor and a friend said, if you're not willing to bet on yourself, then how are people going to bet on you? And I
Mm.
was like, you know what? I'm not perfect, but I have work ethic and I will work at this thing and I'm willing to do it for the right reasons.
Mm.
And so I did. I went out on my own. I took my own contract. And then what I really strive to do is I want to wake up every day. And if I'm not with my child, I want to be doing value-based work. I'm a first generation college student. I've made more than anybody in my family. I pay it back. I'm going to be paying it back to take care of them in their older age. And I want to wake up in the morning. I want to make enough money, but I want to make it doing the work that I believe in. And I'm
Mm.
willing to say no if it doesn't align. And that's what moves me. And I realized that working that many government jobs, you don't get to choose what you have to say in front of the press or other people. I didn't get the choice. I was lucky that I worked for Obama, in which we were value aligned. But many people in politics or in just jobs in general, you don't get to pick what your boss tells you to do. But to wake up in the morning and have the privilege to be like, you know what, that client isn't for me.
Mhm.
And to make
Mhm.
that choice is an incredible gift. And so we stay small so that we can stay value aligned, so that I know I have enough buffer to say no, thank you. And so that I know that I'm a full person. And I was raised by grandmothers, aunties who just really were working multiple jobs to pay the bill, housekeepers. And so for me, time is my gift. And so I work to have the time to be present for myself. And so, yeah, I'd bet on myself again, but really it was also my mentors who were betting on me, telling me to do it. And I wouldn't have done it without it. But it's been incredibly healing to learn you can do work without compromising your values. And you can do work treating your staff with respect. And women can lead without needing to be condescended to or with other people taking credit for your work.
Oof.
And I think that those things, as I run my business, are completely healing for me.
Yeah.
And I hope
Yeah.
that it's an example for others to do their own path and to pay that forward. So hopefully that
Oh,
answers the question.
oh,
So
yes.
Tamia,
Beautiful.
we
Mhm.
know that Amanda is goals. Okay, this is one of the reasons
I
why
know.
we
I
love talking
know.
to Amanda because she has figured out the secret sauce.
Uh-huh.
She has, because normally when people tell me they want to go into entrepreneurship because they want more time, I'm always like, ha ha, so funny. But
Right.
there's layers to that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just want to say, like, you have, like Amanda, you have figured out the equation,
Mhm.
and I strive to be there because I am still like I'm just learning how to um, say my price with my chest, as they say. like say my
Full
price with
chest.
my chest,
Yes.
with my
Yes,
full
girl.
chest,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I value the work. Like you're going to get more than just work for me because I like to be behind the scenes, but I also like to make sure that all of the things are together, right? Um, in saying that though, I'm puffing a book where the set your boundaries.
Ooh.
Like what
Be
Amanda does
still.
well is she sets boundaries. I'm
Mhm.
still learning this, right? I got the workbook. But yeah, I just wanted to just like you're the goat. Like you're the goat.
Oh, I
And
appreciate that. I'm still a mess and figuring it out, but when it comes from you, it means a lot. I feel kind of emotional. And then I
Yeah.
think, to say is in case we're not clear, I say time is precious and I put it where I want it, but I work more hours than I ever did in any other job. And I think any entrepreneur will tell you that. You just do it in a different way, right?
Yeah.
And then I think the boundary thing is like between therapy and like being a caregiver or a parent, you like
Mhm.
learn that stuff. Like I'm about to cuss out. You learn it because you have to, right?
You have
Because
to.
your back's against the wall and you just need to. And you realize that it ends up being a gift to yourself and them by working through the hard stuff, right? And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that what I needed though was women to be honest about their own struggles to me early on and also talk about uncomfortable things like work-life balance,
Mhm.
labor, pay, miscarriages, caregiving, all of the icky stuff that you don't talk about with other males in the workplace. I had a
Mhm.
woman say, just so you know, your white peer is getting paid this. So
Mhm.
when you go
Mhm.
into that negotiating meeting with them, you do that as your floor because you're doing twice enough work. And I wouldn't have been able to do that unless she did that for me. And so I think that I appreciate the honest space and I appreciate that people really put in their ass out there for other women in a way that can be a risk for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would
That's
definitely say because even on the campaign, if it wasn't for, a mentor there on the campaign just pulling me into this, I was a senior accountant. If she would have never pulled me in, I would have went back to the field. Who knows
mhm.
where I would have landed,
Mhm.
but we did like you need the mentor, like you need
I do.
someone to see your work and then help you kind of elevate it. I've just now found someone who has an accounting firm, 40 years, minority. Like I just found him. And I'm not letting him go. Just so you know, like
I know
I
when you
For
told us that, I
real.
was like, ooh.
I know. I
yes.
know.
And one of the things that he validated for me is that I have something. And he was just saying in this day and age, follow through is what is most important. And that's one of the things that's really important with Marico. But entrepreneurship, it's a solo game. Like you feel all alone on the cliff, like
On the
it
cliff, honey.
definitely it requires community, especially when
Yes.
you're a woman, right? Because especially if you do have, even if you don't have kids, you still got responsibilities. We're still like,
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
kind of older. Um, but yeah, and just as women, I think being nurturers, we tend to overextend ourselves. We tend to
Mhm.
put ourselves on the back burner. Um, you know, we just tend to do that. And if it's not for your community, you will run yourself ragged.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And without community, you wouldn't know how to really deal with your staff or maybe, new policies or new rules coming up, that's one of the things that I love about the three of us is that we can actually get in the room and we already know where we are. Like Tamia makes a joke about payroll. Like there was one day where we loved payroll and now, payroll come and we like sweating
Sweating.
bullets. Like, okay, is that
Yes.
client gonna pay so that I can make it, Uh,
Yes. Yes.
but yeah, but the goal is to get to a place where you don't sweat when you run
Mhm.
payroll.
Mhm.
But there's valleys and mountains, right? Like in entrepreneurship, it is a journey. It is a journey.
It is
Um,
a journey.
I'll just put that little tidbit there.
No, it's so true. And you all you dropped so many gems. I think there's an important piece here which you both touched on about like managing your time, managing your workload. Amanda making the point about you don't want to be too large. Because I think, and I don't know if you two ever have experienced this, but I do, like there's this assumption that the bigger your staff is, the like more successful you are. So when I first started, it was like, okay, cool. But now that I'm 4 years in, it's like, well, how big is your team? And I'm like, we got a little squad, and that's it. Because to your point earlier, the bigger the team, the bigger the payroll, the bigger the and hello, we're in Trump's America right now. Like money is not flowing like it used to. You know, if this was Obama times, we'd be in a whole different
Oh,
world.
that's different.
Like if we were this age during that time, oh, okay, we may have had 50 staff, but the world is just not what it was back then. And I think
Yeah.
it's also a matter of like managing the public perception of it, and I'd love to get your both of your thoughts on that versus like what you know in terms of like putting together your business plan and internally what makes you successful. And I really love that you both talked about, you know, having ownership over your time, autonomy, right? Like I think that's also important. I had a friend who you both know is an entrepreneur and worked with us during Obama time. He asked me yesterday, what would it take for you to go into a full-time job? And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he was like, how much would it cost? And right. And I was like, I actually don't think I can quantify it at the moment. It had to be something ridiculous. And he was like, yep, I just wanted to check where you were because you
Yeah.
get it now. And I was like, yeah, the freedom and flexibility, even though I spend most of my time, you said it, Maria, on this, it still feels different because it's an investment of myself. It's an investment with the women who work with me. It's an investment in my clients. And I don't think I could go back to that right now. Like it just doesn't, I don't know when I would go back there. And so I thought that was just such an interesting, he was just gut checking me. Just like seeing where you're at. He's like, because you've been saying this year is frustrating, but it's still not that frustrating for you. And I was
No,
like,
no, not
wow,
yet.
not
That's
yet.
why you need
Not yet.
community. Like you need community.
It's so
Uh,
true. You
I
do.
wanted to piggyback off of what you said in the I this year I went through Baltimore's or wait, I'm a Baltimorean, let me say it right. Baltimore. I went through Baltimore's
Baltimore.
Baltimore. I went through their Goldman Sachs 10,000 small businesses and you know, I had a team of 14. And so I was really big and it took that workshop that, you know, for what, 3, 4 months. And I really got to analyze Marico because a lot of times we're operations. So, you know, we need operations for, you know, ourselves as well. So I got to really just spend the time on Marico and
Mhm.
I saw all the like gaps. And, you know, it really started with my protocols, my SOPs. I'm so big with all my other clients with SOPs. And that's part of the reason why I was so I couldn't like data, I couldn't give you the facts about stuff not being done. I just knew that things weren't being done holistically the Marico
Mhm.
way. And although they were getting done, they weren't getting done the way that I wanted them done. And you know, we're currently going through a restructuring and we're rewriting our SOPs right now. So like my team has gone down to a very small team and I'm actually back into the day to day. And unfortunately, with that, that means that I have to now sit down with my team, rewrite these SOPs so that, you know, we're getting ready to go into tax time because I really want to scale Marico. You know, I
Mhm.
do want to be bigger than what we are. Ideally, I wanted to buy, you know, a bookkeeping firm or a payroll firm. And then my mentor, this is why mentors are important. And he told me the way that I look at operations holistically, it's
Mhm.
not just accounting, it's not just risk management. And in risk management, I mean like commercial insurances and protecting the company, or it's not just about payroll. You know, we look at it holistically as one. And he was saying that nowadays people need that. Like they really do. they need someone to take over that operations and look at it holistically. So I felt good about that, but having a larger team though, it taught me a lot. It taught me that I need a chief of staff. Like I need my internal HR person. Because when you are the CEO and you start growing, you realize how you don't get to do the check-ins with everyone, right? So you know, yeah, small business and growing, like that is a thing. And you got to have those internal controls set. Look at us talk about internal controls.
I know.
I know. And people are like, huh?
Yeah, but I think that there's also a theme here that, like in life, things come in seasons, right? When I first got started, I had a co-founder who was still at the firm, and we had gone up to about 8 staff our first year. And I learned a lot about that. Number one, we operate in a gig economy now. So I was offering full-time staff and benefits to folks who, I'm very supportive if you need to move on, right? And good talent will. But then I lost a lot of money from investing in people who really didn't want a full-time job. And so there's a little bit of that in that, but also like the market changes depending on what you're selling and what your business is, that changes. And then for us, the political climate changes. And I come from a mindset of, growing up poor where we didn't have money in the bank and we did have SNAP and things. So I also plan for a rainy day. It's what makes me feel cozy, right? You don't always need to, but for my emotional well-being, I know that that's a need for me. And so I plan to know that I can operate, right, for 3 or 4 months without if someone flakes on me. And then I think the other thing is, it was a really hard lesson. We talked a little bit about payroll and all of that, that even people who mean well, who you trust, deals can still fall apart. An invoice can still not get paid. And that has a tremendous impact on you. And learning that lesson early is the right lesson because you move different. Um, and that's a real thing for small business owners, for people to commit to something, to take hours of your time and not get compensated. People will rob you.
And will.
They will not
And
know that
will.
they're robbing you.
Oh my
When you
goodness.
take an idea from an entrepreneur, when you have them do a project, when you don't commit and you don't pay on time, that is like money out of their pocket. That is staff that they have to pay even though you don't pay them. And I think that this is a really hurtful lesson. It's a hard lesson. You start to internalize, was it me? Did I do
Yes.
something wrong? What could I have done differently? And I think years in now, I've begun to separate that. Like that is the nature of this game. It is
Right.
going to
You take
exist,
risks.
but what is in my control and how am I moving differently to plan for that?
Yeah.
And then how am I setting those boundaries again of like, hey, we can have X amount of conversations. If you haven't been able to commit at this point, please come and see me when you can.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is real.
Girl,
And
you didn't hit
And
it.
that is really hard because our relationships are deep at this point. I'm talking to people who I have known for like 10 plus years, and I
Yes.
think that they mean well, but they may not be able to cut that check.
Yeah.
And so it's very hard and nuanced, if that makes any sense. But being cold about it is what's necessary to protect your team, your staff, and your family and your livelihood if you are running a business in this environment.
Yeah.
Girl,
And
you
I
didn't
think
hit
that
all the things.
no,
Girl,
it's
you didn't open up the floodgates.
I know, because it's actually perfect for the next part of this discussion.
I feel like
Because
people don't talk about it. It's really unglamorous to say like people don't.
Yes,
and I'd be curious.
let's open the door. Let's talk about it.
Let's see some comment. Yeah, and I'd be curious too about, which is actually leading to our next question, our next part of this discussion, which is being a woman of color in this space, right? And how you're talking about people who don't pay. And like this said person who messaged me yesterday is a man. He's a man of color. But when I made the comment very similar to what you just said about people not paying, he was like, that literally doesn't happen to me. And I said, way to rub it in. He goes, no, I'm trying to figure out what I can tell you that I do that it doesn't happen. I said, well, I can't change my sex. So that's a big part of it. And I can't change my color, honey. So I want to ask you, Maria, um, as you work with a lot of women and minority-led organizations and help them set up, what have you seen that helps them be successful when it comes to this? Because we tend to, we face different barriers than others. What have you seen that's been successful? And then I go to you, Amanda.
So it's really hard to decipher Marico from, because I do operations. I have a a nice little roster of clients. So it's hard to separate myself from them because I too have fallen into the same thing, right? You know someone, like Amanda said, you know someone for a really long time. They know you can do the work. And so with me, it's not setting the boundary, right? Of I don't start work until I get a contract, right? I really, someone I knew for years, I talked to that person and I ended up like I knew exactly what to do because it's what I do, hired the contract, and then I got stuck paying for her because I thought like this person said that, they wanted me to do this work and da 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 da. And we've had a couple, phone calls on how it's gonna go. And I never was like, hey, I need, first invoice or I need a contract. And then I got screwed, right? So that was 20K. I know you always hear about it because that 20K is a lot to a small business
Oh,
owner.
yes.
It'll
Yes, it
haunt
Um,
is.
you.
it
I'm like, oh
haunts
wait, I
you.
know. I'm realizing I know this situation now that you said it. I'm like, oh, now I'm getting
Yes.
mad. Yep.
So yeah, so like,
Mhm.
but this year I'm finally gonna write it off because now I know, like, but then that's gonna mess up my taxes, right? If I write it off, my bottom line now looks 20K less. But anywho, what I see is that for women, for for me, I'm not gonna talk about class. I'm gonna talk about for me. For me, it is taking the emotion out of my work and leading with my leadership. It's new. I just discovered it. Um, so what I noticed is that the old me would be like, "Oh, I'll fix it. Like I'm your fixer. Oh my goodness, I care about you. You got something really good, and I'm just gonna help you because I know that you know that I'm gonna help you and I'm gonna do it right, and so you will turn around and pay me." Yeah, no, that's not how that works, right? So taking the emotion out of it, and y'all know I cuss. So, right now I'm like, oh, so I got to be a bitch. Like that's
I mean,
I got to be a bitch. This is why they say, niceness, don't get you no money. Like you have to separate the leadership from the emotion. And I think it's a little sad, right? Because
yeah.
it's sad, but that's like the old me thinking that it's sad because the new me with boundaries is saying, I value the work that I do is of value, and therefore we don't need to entertain a conversation until a contract is signed, or we don't need to entertain a conversation until that first invoice is signed. It doesn't matter that I'm trying to change the world one small business at a time. What matters is, can I feed my 3 kids? Can I pay my mortgage? Like this is my livelihood. I'm not just out here on the campaign getting paid pennies, waking up and going to sleep working. No, that's not what's going on right now. So setting the boundaries, I think people um not having the proper setup, like the proper mentorship, like what Amanda said. Thankfully, Amanda got set up the first time in a good situation, right? We don't all get that. Like that
Right.
is a blessing. And I will say for to be minority and also like a woman, they automatically want to take like thousands of dollars off. And it's like, but why? Because I'm gonna work harder than that guy you got. I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna treat your stuff like it's my stuff.
Yeah.
Why do I have to, so to tell you the truth, I don't know why. I think it's setting boundaries and I think it's having a good mentor that can set you up in the beginning. One of the other things about entrepreneurship that is really hard is price, is setting your price.
Yes.
And it
Yes.
starts with your financials. So how much is your overhead? Oh, I don't know. Oh, okay. Well, how much did you make on this job? Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, because you ain't got no financials to the numbers don't lie, honey. The numbers, the math be mathing with the numbers. So it starts there, but it is hard setting your price. Like, what are you worth, especially when you're first starting out?
Especially when you're first starting out. And I think I was just told by a white man that I need to raise my prices for what I do, right? And Jasmine will appreciate this because she knows what I'm talking about because we talked about it this morning. And this was prior to me raising my price. So I hadn't. They thought I was asking for too much. But then Jasmine and I found out that a man was hired and was given it without issue. And so it's like those things that are very frustrating. And it's like, you know what? What I've had to learn over the years is, okay, then that's not your client.
It's not your
Um,
client.
they're just not your
Nope,
client.
it's not your
Like,
client. They're not gonna make that journey quick enough for it to serve you. They're just
because
not.
now you're looking at me like you're not valuing me and I'm going to overwork. And Jasmine and I talked about all the gaps that are happening with said candidate. And she's like, well, you could have called Tamia. You wouldn't be looking for all this right now. This would have been done. So it would have been worth your money. And part of that was helping you with money, right? And the one thing I've learned over this journey too is like who embodies the spirit of what we do and what this firm is. And I said it to Anaya yesterday. We have a new client, and I said she embodies the spirit of TBS. She is a TBS client. And when I tell you she's a TBS client, this morning she emailed her accounting team and said, "Where's Tamia's check?" And I was like, "She is a TBS client."
Yes.
Yeah.
And
It's like
so
they
it's
get
like
it.
learning. I didn't have to lower my price for her. I said what it was, and she's like, "Where's her money?" And I said, "Oh, it's very rare when people usually shuffle their feet." So it's also getting to that place of confidence and saying like, "Okay, mom, I see you, mom, raise the price. I know my mom, she does not play with me on this. And mommy, you've been an entrepreneur too, so you know, it's just like at the end of the day, I need to find people who will value me for what I see myself as." And that is probably one of the biggest things I've learned as a woman of color in this space. Amanda?
I don't know. I think there's a little bit of grief wrapped in this, right? Like,
Mm,
or at least for me, like, I don't think I will be alive in the generation where the Latina pay gap is going to close, right? That is going to be that is my journey. That's where I am. I'm going to get, it's like pennies on the dollar compared to a
mm,
white man, right?
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and so, I'll say it. I charge on a sliding scale. So if you're a Black female led, Latina led organization who's a nonprofit, you're going to get a different rate than if you're in philanthropy. And I
mhm,
usually say
mhm,
that up front before we even start talking about things now that I've learned. And then I ask for monthly retainers rather than hourly work, learned that one the hard way. And then when possible, I put a cap on hours because we'll also be worked and expected to work twice as hard. We'll be expected to know twice as much, work
mhm,
twice as hard, and then
mhm.
clean up the mess of your white male clients who you pay twice as much and then didn't follow through. And then you
Whatever.
fight for me
Right.
to do it with a smile and say thank you. And so, whether it be an entrepreneurial contract or a job that I've gotten, I can't tell you I've gotten one White House appointment where someone who was white or male or something else got it before me and
Mhm,
didn't do the job and wasn't willing to do the work. And so that's just, I'm sorry, that happens to be my journey. I don't think it's unique. I don't think it's glamorous to talk about because there's a lot of consequence in it, but that
mhm,
is the reality. And if all of this is the reality, then that tells me that when I approach a situation, I need to have my homework ready and I have to be willing to know what I am willing to budge on and walk away. Now, I should say that, like, right before I had my kid, I was in a executive master's of public leadership and got my debate certification, my negotiation certification. And I'd recommend it to anybody. They tell you to have a batten and a watna when you go into the room, your bottom line and your top scale.
Love the
mm,
book.
And I will tell you to do it. The
Negotiation
other thing they're
is
going to tell you
key.
is you need the right butts in the right seats. You want your right team, not a
yeah.
like gonna fuck around team, right?
Mm,
And
mm,
I will invest in people and their humanity more than I will if they make a mistake. I could care less about a mistake. I care more about your integrity. And so if I'm walking that way, when I think about what they're paying me, I'm thinking about that they're also going to pay the people on my team who have families and other obligations. And so when I have that in mind, I will even ask, I will say, hey, I'm looking for parity. Are you willing to pay me what you pay your white peer? And they will have to wrestle with that white guilt
mm,
if they're confronted with it.
mm.
And they will or they won't. But my privilege is I know that I'm willing to walk away. And so I
Damn.
know I can push it that far because I can walk away. I want to recognize that I have been in the position where I did not have that privilege and I had to take the money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I would say
Yeah.
I have no judgment. If you got to take that money, And if
Right.
that's not your path yet, and I have no judgment if you got to look and learn, right? And so I would say that, do what you need to do, right? I don't want to seem like I'm on a high horse, but I'm saying that at this point,
Mhm.
now I've moved to
Mhm.
have that cushion. And I also I'm very observant, right? To me, I like read a room.
Yeah.
That's like a trauma
Yes.
response.
He does.
But if now it served
Mhm.
me, right?
Yeah.
I'm in
Yeah.
meetings, I'm now seeing the contracts.
Hmm.
I just saw this
Hmm.
contract, and this man charged 20K an email for a bi-weekly email. So over the course of he was charging 75K for 3 emails. Do you know that I had the meeting notes where I gave him ideas for that actual thing, and it came up in a proposal to the funder? And so if I know this, right, yes. Yeah, like I have the paper and the emails for all of this. Like things are bold in these streets. And so I also learned to shut my mouth a little differently because like you, Maria, I come from a place of like I believe that if we are going to forge ahead and really make a difference, we are going to do it together. We are not going to do it in isolation. We are going to do it in community. That is my value. But it is against my value to go into a space and think, ooh, I got to shut my mouth because someone is going to take from me and it is going to not serve me. So I'm like holding these two, this dissonance, if that makes any sense. But I
Hmm.
think that's the
Hmm.
reality of the complexity about being a woman or any sort of, archetype that isn't white, dominant, and male and cis. In this world. So sorry, I went on a tangent. I don't know if
No,
made
that
any
was
sense.
Oh,
But
good.
that
that's
was
also a
good.
lot of labor to
But
discern that,
I
Right.
like to
think
like
Right.
move.
I
So
Exactly.
think
that's
That's
why
that
I
right.
is
think you
the
need to own
goal.
businesses so you don't have to do that labor.
Right.
So the
Correct.
Yes.
leadership is different and the world
Yes.
looks different.
Yes. It's all
That's the
very
only
different.
solution in my mind. It's more more
Yes.
female, more diverse, and more empathetic leadership. Point blank.
Yes.
Yes, that
Yes.
I think that is the goal, Amanda. I don't think you were going on a tangent. I think you were onto
Mhm.
something because if we can all start our own businesses and take care of each other and lead in that manner and run these companies with those values, then we as a community, that's how we lift our community up.
Right.
That's how we
Right.
educate our community. So I think you're onto something. I think that's the goal.
Yeah.
Which is why I
I
keep you
agree.
close to me so I can, get some of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Y'all
and
can't go anywhere. That's not
I think
allowed.
it's different because I've always kind of been the outlier and all of my friend, at least my DC, Northeastern friendships, I'm always the outlier because everybody's in politics.
Mhm.
And I'm rooted in operations. So I'm more of an accountant or, a payroll specialist. Like I do more of the behind the scenes um task and how I can see things. And that's always, I used to always feel very inferior. And I, I'm just going to say it. So one of my values here at Marico is authenticity because one, my phonics don't always be phonicsing, and I don't want to feel bad about it. I want to show up and be who I am and
Mhm.
call you boo, maybe, and I might drop a cuss word every now and again. And I still want you to value what I'm saying and still know that I know what I'm doing. And trauma, like a lot of therapy, executive coaching,
Mhm.
Angela's Tennyson, she's got her coaching, soulful and like weekly connection, like executive coaching helps us, especially us that are first generation, right?
Mhm.
um helps us get, okay, I got a brain fog, y'all know I was in an accident.
It'll come back.
It'll
You're gonna
come
get it.
back. I was talking
You were
about,
talking about executive coaching and
oh, not feeling, not the, so at the White House, one of the issues that I ran into, I was doing so much initiative. I mean, I was creating office space out of no space. So I worked in room one, and this was when the EEOB, the old building, was being renovated. So we couldn't use half of the building. I'm talking about. I used to go open every door. I can tell you everything that goes on in EOB because there was a time where I was so unhappy and I would open every door in the EEOB. And I created like office, like conference space and just different forms to make things run efficiently, and the secretary of war rooms and stuff. And I almost got fired for not showing initiative. And I could not stand up for myself. I believed that I was the only person in M&A that was not showing initiative. Now, y'all know me. Y'all know I say boo to
That's not
everybody.
possible.
Y'all know
Yeah.
I'm a help when I can, and this was before I even learned how to take care of myself.
Mm.
But that still haunts me. And I don't think that people in certain positions understand their biases and
Mhm.
how if
Mhm.
it doesn't look a certain way, that
Yeah.
it's bad, right? So because I was more flamboyant, more, authentically myself, almost calling the president boo, uh, you know, um, like it's gonna look different, but I am still showing initiative. So I
Mhm.
grew authenticity a value for Marico because that's me taking back my power. And that I know that I am an out of the box thinker. I know that, in accounting, I'll get right up to that line. I ain't gonna cross it, but honey, I'll get right up to it.
We appreciate
Um,
We love it. Thank you
we
in advance.
appreciate
Thank you.
we appreciate it.
I mean, but that's how they do it. That's how the beans look at even our president does it.
I was about to say the president be
The
right. He
president
be over the
himself
line.
embraces it. And I don't know if y'all saw, but 25 and 26, 100% meal deductions is coming back. So y'all better get
Oh,
y'all business going.
make a
Um,
note.
Yes,
Okay.
that big beautiful bill is so much stuff in there that is beneficial to the people that know the information of being entrepreneur, like
Mm.
that have seen it from the top and now they know how to navigate it.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason why
Yeah.
Epstein got all those people on his, that in them emails. You know what I mean? Like it's a game.
Hmm.
And the more of
Hmm.
us that step out of corporate and step into
Yes.
entrepreneurship, the more we can help each other as a community also play those same games.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I just really want to plus up that
Okay. I'm
thinking
gonna go to the
and
audience.
out of nonprofit life, right?
Mm.
Like we have LLCs, especially with foundations getting attacked right now, nonprofits getting attacked. I'm not discouraging and I embrace and support the work. It is who I support, but there is not a reason why there shouldn't be more women in private sector, C4 and other fields. Diversify. It is not an either or. Like men do not go, oh, I'm just going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Or
No.
someone's already doing that.
No.
Or there's already a Latina who's doing that because there apparently only one of us can do it in a niche. No, nobody does that. If you're a male,
Right.
like have many. Like that is competition in the marketplace. Like, so I think I'm completely with you. It is like removing the gatekeeping on that information, and learning that, put yourself out there to fail because failing is sometimes the greatest gift you're going to
Oh, the
get.
greatest success.
Oh,
Yes. Yes. It really teaches you a lot.
it
Okay, we
really
have a lot
teaches
of
you a lot.
questions because this is golden and I'm trying to respect everyone's time. So we're gonna lightning rod these questions.
Okay, okay.
Um, Christy asks, with regard to price setting, for those of us starting out, do you all recommend pricing closer to our floor than raising our prices as our projects and portfolios go? Who wants to take that?
Well, I will say I learned from Goldman Sachs. Maura, she taught the negotiation class. And she said that, we're so scared of negotiation because we think like it's a secret thing.
Hmm.
The way that she approaches it is know your floor, know your ceiling, and be authentic in it. So maybe start in the middle so that you give yourself wiggle room, but know your floor. So I would say the first part of pricing is to know your floor. What can't you go under?
Yeah,
Especially
that's
if it's
good.
just the first or second one, like just know what you can't go under. What do you absolutely need to cover overhead, to cover your time, you know? And one of the other things about pricing is I barter, but I'm different, because I do
I
I
do
do
too.
operations. So I can get therapy and then do, I barter a lot. So also think about that as well.
I would add to this. So I'll be transparent. My standard rate is 275 an hour as a floor. I will make an adjustment to a nonprofit, and it has gone up as high as 375. I do not have a law degree. I do have a graduate degree. That is not where I started. Track your prices as you move, and your price isn't real until somebody's actually paid that for you. I do get along a lot of young entrepreneurs who are like, I am worth that. I believe you, but you need someone to be able to pay you that. You may not be worth that like today in the marketplace for your skill set. You may be worth that 3 years, and that is not a measure of your internal value. So you also need to remove that emotional context. But
I
I
think
would
that's
go
good.
middle to high for your first
Mhm.
offer, but tag it verbally or with language saying that you are committed to the project and want to move forward and are open to a discussion if this does not work for them. And sometimes people are willing to negotiate a little bit more verbally than they are in writing.
Yeah.
And then to Maria's point, know your floor, but don't start at your floor because it's only going to go.
Hmm. Right.
Right. That's
And we're
good.
happy to follow up if you want some additional advice.
I
Yeah.
love
And
that.
also
Okay.
another thing that I recently learned about pricing is that whatever they're asking for, put that verbatim for that. Anything outside of that is
Yes.
per
Yes.
hour. I have gotten clients that will sign up. I want them to get the full package, but they'll just sign up for payroll. And then I let them know this is risk management. Do you want me to do that? This is how much it's going to cost. And then before I would just do it. Now I
No,
stay strict to what you're getting. And then, if you're getting more, then I got to tell you up front and I need my money. I'm getting better at that.
Right.
yeah.
Right. Okay. Next one. That
Next
was
one.
good. What lessons did you all learn when you started seeking clients? What worked and what did you wish you knew back then?
Mm. Every client is not for you.
Mhm.
I learned that when you have that discovery call and something like they say something or they make you feel a certain way or you let them make you feel a certain way, they're
Been
not your
there.
client.
They're not your client.
They're
Been
not your
there.
client. And that's okay. That's okay. I had to learn that that's okay. My first time getting fired, honey, I cried for 2 weeks. Okay. Because I was just like, I just don't
Mhm.
understand. But that person was a micromanager. I don't do well with micromanagers. But it wasn't until 2 months later that I came to that understanding. So every client is not for you. That's what I would say. And that if you get a little feeling that I don't like the way you talking to me or I don't like the way you operate, it's not gonna work. Just
Just had
stop.
that. I just had that. So I'm a little tricked. I'm a little
Follow
triggered.
your gut. I agree
Follow
with
your
that.
gut.
Follow your gut. Follow your gut. It is always going to be right. And remember, in the cost benefit analysis, uh, your emotional sanity and tax is time. So
Hmm.
you can lose money on a client, even if you're getting money by it being the wrong fit. So be judicious and trust yourself.
That
Yeah.
is real as hell. Okay.
Yeah.
She asked about, oh, do we think Black women will turn into entrepreneurship? My answer to that is yes. With us being
I
forced out of the
I
workplace, I
I
don't,
hope so.
I hope
And
so, because at this point, it's kind of like, what are you supposed to do? You can't keep waiting.
And I will say, shout out to FAMU's SBI. I graduated from FAMU in School of Business and Industry. And I remember our school was always torn between the corporate people and the entrepreneur people.
I
And
can see
I was
that.
always a corporate girl. I want to let y'all know that I have not always been entrepreneur. I just want my corner office. I want to work hard. I want to be paid right. And that was it, right? So now it's like I see where the entrepreneur students were talking about and teaching us how to build a business, teach us how to be successful in a business. So like I get it. I get it now. So I'm glad that I had that foundation.
Okay,
Uh,
let's see. Oh, good. You
I was
wanted to
just
add
going to
to
say,
that?
I was like, I'm excited. I hope so. Because what I realized too is that I think that there is a perception that business is only for profit and not for people. Uh,
Mhm.
you don't have to be an asshole when you run your business. You can run your
Correct.
business with integrity and do good things for community. I don't know, like reshape, and this is why I have that, reimagine what business ownership and small business marketplace looks for you
I
and your
love that.
community. And there is nothing wrong with earning a living off your hard work, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, make sacrifices, but do not suffer for good work. You deserve joy. And I think that, when we see more women of color being entrepreneurs, we'll see what that looks like. And that's not what we see business like today, in my opinion.
Mm.
And
And
I
I think
want
a
to
big
drop
part of it too
another
is,
little, oh, go ahead, Mia.
I was just gonna say a big part of it too is like with also being kicked out of the workplace, but also like, nope, the I don't have to deal with like the microaggressions when I'm running
Oh,
this job. It's like the things that I
all
don't
the
have
things
to
you
deal.
get back when you don't have to do that.
Right, like the things that I don't have to deal with and like the way I can be selective about who I work for, it just changes a whole lot. And I think that when people discover that part, that freedom, this goes back to what I said to my friend yesterday. Like, I don't know how to quantify this for you right now because it's not on my radar. But go ahead, Maria.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so again, because I'm operations, I don't, I'm not political. So the vendors that I work for or that I partner with, some of them, I know that they can be that way. However, they got something my client need. And I'm going to be that in-between person because I already know the game, bruh. So you can give me all the microaggressions you want. And you know, if it gets too bad, I will leave you and find someone else. I do try to build community in that piece, but I still go through it with my clients. But I feel like I take that on so that they can continue to push on and do what they're doing. And I'll fight these battles because I'm an expert at, whatever it is, payroll, accounting, whatever. But with the business and women in business, I think instead of paying those taxes to the government, have your own business and you give the money to don't I mean, yes, we know we got to pay the government. We have to support people on SNAP and all that good stuff. I'm not saying don't pay taxes. There's no way that you can not pay taxes. I get that a lot. There's no way. You have to pay taxes, okay?
I'm dead.
We got to
No,
take,
we
you
have to
are
pay
your
those.
brother's keeper. You are your brother's keeper. However, you can be more strategic and instead of paying, 50,000 to the IRS, girl, call me so that we can figure out what business you got so that you can give that money to some school or some nonprofit or, some neighborhood group and girl, and put that as a deduction on your P&L. Okay, that's my little
Okay.
spiel.
But no, this is perfect because the next question is, for those of us just starting out, how do we find a good accountant and what questions should we ask and what things should we look for? So go ahead, Maria.
Yes, I am so glad this question. Yay, I was nervous it's going to be all political stuff.
See?
So I will say that when you meet with your accountant, first I want to break down accountant. So depending on what state you're in, you can only be accountant if you have a CPA. You really, in starting off, you want to start off with a bookkeeper. There's a bookkeeper, a non-CPA accountant, a CPA accountant, and then you also got your tax person. Those are four different people. Just like lawyers specialize in different, contracts, what's your dad do to me?
Oh,
The
you talking about
accidents.
legal? Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Legal is
Insurance.
broken up. Yeah, one
Hmm.
lawyer cannot do everything for you legally. They're all
Yeah.
structured differently. The same way with accountants. You have bookkeepers who may or may not have the background. Ideally, you want to get a bookkeeper that does understand debits and credits, not just data. So, excuse me. So, in looking for, I would say if you're starting off, look for a bookkeeper and someone who understands the debits and credits. I am a non-CPA accountant. I do have my MBA. But I work with CPAs and sometimes I'm the person doing all the work because
Oh,
CPAs typically don't like
really?
to they like to manage and they like to check off and they like to do journal entries. Hopefully no CPAs email me after this. But I enjoy the work. I enjoy the ins and outs of it. I enjoy help telling your story. That's what accounting is. You're telling the numbers. I enjoy that piece. So a lot of CPAs end up liking me. But and we do taxes too. But the reason what I'm saying is start off with a bookkeeper because at least they can just help you say what your revenue is, what your expenses are, and your net income. So you want to work with someone that is not just doing your books and you hands off and you don't know. Even if you're not a numbers person, they should be educating you and talking to you and checking into you with you quarterly. Like, hey, do we need to make a quarterly payment? This is what quarterly payments are. So you want to get with someone who is educating and they're also pulling you in it, not just, oh, let me do it and I'll just send you statements when you want. A lot of people are also going to the Philippines and international. I I say don't do it without advisement. So if someone else is looking over those books, then okay, fine. But how our tax system is set up and our bookkeeping is set up, it's similar, but it's different. So no, you cannot replace a US accountant, excuse me, with a Philippine accountant. They are good though.
Um, so I've heard. So we're at past time. Are you two okay to finish these questions? Maria, are you okay?
Yeah, I think I'm
Okay,
fine.
we got, well, Maria, you need to look at the chat. There's some people that like to connect with you. So I
Oh,
dropped in your,
yay.
I dropped in your web page. Okay,
Yay.
so we'll lighten rod these. We kind of touched on this, but I think we could touch on it a little bit more. How do you overcome feeling like you failed? I know.
This is when your community comes into play. Like entrepreneurship can be very isolating,
Mhm.
especially when you make a mistake. You get so hard on yourself when it was just an honest mistake. And just knowing that what Amanda said, like you learn the most from your failures. That's really when you sit back and you say, how did this happen? How do I make sure this doesn't happen again? And that's the only way to move forward. Admit it, say it. It's going to put your big girl panties on, take your little thong off, put them little big girl panties on and have the hard conversation.
Amanda.
You know, I feel like I have a little bit more of a steel coating with professional stuff. But the personal stuff gets me. So my husband is primarily stay-at-home dad. I'm primarily the provider over the last few years in particular. He does drop off and pick up, but I'm here and work from home every day when my kid gets home. And I shared a little bit about my background, right? I was a bit of a latchkey kid, right? And any parenting is the right parenting, so there's no judgment on that. But for me internally, I did drop off last Friday. I try to do it on Fridays. I protect the time just to have a little chit chat in the morning. Those mothers that drop off. Oh, you must be Mauricio's mom. Oh, we haven't seen you at drop off. And like the kind of the interpersonal stuff outside of a professional workplace when I like get rammed into it, there is a moment there where I am insecure and I'm like, am I doing this wrong? Am I
Mm.
absent? What happened here? And I have to give myself a little fuck 'em. Or you better work, bitch, on the way car ride home to like
Right.
recenter myself, retain it, be
Yeah.
like, nobody knows my home, nobody knows me.
Mhm. Mhm.
But that is hard for me sometimes. That my relationship, my marriage, and my identity looks very different than anybody in my family, and that I'm gonna meet in the grocery store or interact with at a parent conference. And I think we alluded to that is very lonely at times,
Mhm.
and it feels
Mhm.
sometimes like I wonder if that is failing. And then I catch myself back up, but those are hard moments. And then I call one of them,
Mhm.
like Maria and Tamia, and then I remember that the world is bigger, right?
That you a boss. My mom's on, so I can't say, but
I know.
you a boss.
But yeah, but there are moments, right? Especially
Yeah.
when we're tired.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I will say, and I think you put it in the chat too, therapy also helps me,
Mhm.
because, with everything going on transparently this year, I've had to downsize a bit because it's just, nobody really wanted to work with Democrats until about last 2 weeks ago when we finally won the elections. So it's been hard. And I was just like, I'm failing. And she's like, do you know how many people, like big corporations are downsizing? So
Yeah.
it's okay. And the blessing is like my staff, I didn't have to, lay off any staff. And so being reminded of that too. And I called both of them about it. We both have talked about it where I was like, I can't believe I'm here, but understanding that this is a season. And you said that earlier, Amanda, about it being seasons. And
Yeah.
like my squad right now, we toughened it out and we have done, I mean, we've done a whole lot where people won't notice that we're a lot smaller. But it's also just reminding myself that like, girl, 26 is around the corner and it's gonna be a whole other world. And what I've learned from this is, there's a hard world, and I have a lot of friends say this to me. They're like, I do not know how you have worked especially my friends from FAM, your whole life based on election results. And I was like,
Hey.
I know. It was actually Tandy who said it, who was on our webinar last month. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, yo, I never thought about it like that. Like, I have always been risky in my career choice. and never knew that it's always been this way, right? And it's like, if you've been able, first of all, you survived Trump 1, you can survive Trump 2, God help us. But when I think about, when I looked at it like that, I was like, oh, this is what you've, it sounds crazy. And I was like, there's a whole industry of people who do this every 2 years, every year. And it helped me level set of like, you're now in the wave of it. You're at year 4, but your entire 20 years you've always done this. So it was helpful to remember when she said that to me, because I was like, oh, you're just adjusting for the time that we're in, which is wild when you think about how that is so factual for us.
Think about how young we were on the campaign. And I used to have a lot of resentment for some of our like senior minority advisors. Um, but now in going, it's kind of like parenthood. Like you hold your parents to this standard and you're like, oh, they fucked me up, man. Like, oh, whatever. And then you have kids and you're like, oh my goodness. Like, I love you, mom. I love you, dad. Come, please come get these,
I
you
believe
know.
that.
And so you just give so much grace, right? And I think about on a campaign, and I think about, hopefully this is okay to say, but I think about like the Rick Wades and the Earther and Cousins, and some of the people that like I really just wanted them to like bring me with them, like bring me with
Mhm.
you. And
Mhm.
now I see how hard it is
Yeah.
to sustain, um, and it's just, I'm pretty sure they're bringing people with them, but I'm also an odd case because I'm operations,
But
right?
it's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's
People,
it's hard to do.
it's
It's
like,
often a capacity thing. Yeah.
Right, it
yeah,
is. And it depends
people,
on what your role is,
Yeah.
right?
right.
There are
And so
plenty of
you
people I would love to hire
get
right
it
now, but I
differently.
I
I
physically can't.
can't. Like, I just physically don't, the money ain't there. And I feel bad about that,
I
right?
do
So I
too.
try to mentor people in other ways. But to your point, at that age, that is what it looked like, because
Mhm.
you'd see these people that were with the same group the whole time. And really, I'm learning they only had space for one.
We
I only
only
had
had
space
Yeah,
for
yeah.
one,
They only had space. Yeah.
right? And I think that is important. Okay, hold on. Monterey, before being an entrepreneur, because we're right in that path, did you feel like people were checking your tracks because they weren't doing what they needed to do?
I love Amanda's face.
I
We,
know, because it just took, you know where it
Miss
took me back.
Laura.
You know what it took me back to, man. There was I took the glasses off as our time at that beautiful building on Independence. Oh God. I mean, yes. It's I would say for me, while these two gather their thoughts, it's part of why I ended up doing this, because being a Black woman in this space, I was tasked with so much, with no even conversation about promotion, raise, anything that was out of the scope in the job description. And then, if one thing, like you said, Maria, earlier, people make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes
Oh,
at work.
you're gonna make mistakes.
You're tasking me with all this stuff at 27. I am going to make mistakes. But if I made the mistake, the world would fall apart. And it was like, I think back now, and Amanda and I talk about this in particular because we've worked several drops together. Maria and I've been in similar spaces, but it was different. Where it's like, well, you weren't doing what you needed to do as a manager. You didn't manage right. Like, now that I'm here, I'm like, you don't you not you didn't learn how to manage us. So
Oh,
yes, they were not doing what they needed to do and expected us to do it, but would never say it. So you wanted me to be a manager at 26 on a $35,000 a year salary.
can't even make rent.
Can't even pay my rent, thank God for my parents. And like you said, not everybody has that. So other people were taking multiple jobs, and then if anything went wrong, it was always your fault. And because we are women of color, we're going to automatically take accountability.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm done my rant. Go ahead, y'all.
Oh yeah.
Monterey,
Tamia's
you did
alluding
it
to
with
an
that
instance.
question.
She's alluding to an instance in which I had my first government job
I'm
and we
gonna
had
say
the
that about
same
my pay.
boss. And I got dragged out in front of a full staff meeting for something that really was insignificant and had plenty of time to be reviewed. It was a clerical error which someone had 72 hours to. It was a managerial issue. But oh my God. I think you're hearing us pause because I have so many examples. that's just trash. It's just trash. It's not the way you should treat people. It's ineffective
Yeah.
at the job. It's not the way you should manage. It's a reflection on them more than it is us. And then there's also just some really, in the political space, dogmatic control and loyalty issues. There's two particular
Mhm.
instances where I got a different job, and I was told that I should have asked him for permission first and that he had something in line for me. I had another instance when I moved in the White House where they refused to let me move over, and that my new boss had to call my old boss to give them permission for the transfer, because I had more work to do for them. Which now I understand that I was a hard enough worker where you wanted to retain me, but the way you expressed that was control,
Right.
which is inappropriate
Hmm.
professionally.
Hmm.
Um,
Whew.
and so, we could only move when it was okay and convenient for someone else. And so, yeah, to Tamia's point, I don't know how I would go back.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel
No, I
like now, and
can't.
I
I
think we all
can't.
have all talked about this, and
I
Maria, I will
can't.
absolutely let you chime in, is I can't work for people I don't know. Like now it's like it's too
Oh,
risky.
that is a
Like
problem.
if
I'm
I ever
trying.
went back, yeah, if I ever went back, like I have to know that I can work with you because I will be like, oh, I'll quit and go back to TBS. Like it's just the stakes are just different now where it's like if I were to ever leave and work for someone who I don't know you, I don't know about that. But
Listen,
go
I was
ahead,
an
Maria.
excellent waitress at the Olive Garden, and there are some political places I would rather go back to doing that. I would feel more happy,
Y'all know
honestly.
I will go back to Yum Yum. Y'all remember
Yeah,
Yum Yum
I
donuts.
was like, go back to the.
Come on, Darden. And now that
Yeah,
I
I
was
was like,
at Red Lobster.
Oh yeah,
Now
y'all
they got
did
a black
Darden.
CF. Come on, I go back to Darden. Although I think Olive, I don't know. Did Olive Garden leave Darden? I think they left Darden.
Did
I
he
don't know.
No,
leave?
no, it's
But go ahead,
Um,
Maria, before we
okay.
I
wrap.
will say that yes. I talked about this kind of in the beginning. At the White House in the campaign, I mastered systems and making them efficient and learning them and then finding the holes and fixing the holes. And so like the system could run. When I left and went with Art and Broderick, honey, they were expecting me to bring those same systems to a startup. I was horrible my first year at the group or the Collins Johnson group. I was horrible because I didn't know how to build systems.
Mm.
And it wasn't like it was some SOP out there. They were very much like, and this is just what I call them. I call them on the campaign, we had these we had all over the country, there was people that, worked for like the Jesse Jackson, MLK, like these civil rights, and they
Mhm.
had us the same approach to staff and issues, and that was to cuss you out. Like they
Oh,
cussed you out,
yeah,
like you just got cussed out all the
been
time.
there.
And so, it was like yin and yang. So one is like very political and buttoned up, and we'll talk about it and what you did wrong. And the other one was very much like, I'm gonna put my foot in your ass. Get this shit right, But it was great. Like looking back on it though, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I would still do it all over again because that gave me a secret sauce. Like that gave me something. Like even though I had anxiety and thought I was going to get fired every day at the
Mhm.
White House and then the group, it wasn't until a couple years later that people started saying, "Oh, she's the glue," or like she gets it going. And I got married, so I had to leave, but um I learned how to build systems. So even though, I was getting cussed out and, all that good stuff, I try to look at the glass half full, right? So
Mhm.
I learned a lot. People don't work like that no more. Like because we can't get in their ass like people used to get in our asses. Like you
Right.
just so people now, like, we got five
You can't do that
generations
anymore.
working at one
Yeah,
time.
we're
You
stopping
can't do
the
that.
bad treatment, the toxic behavior.
Right. You can't do the toxic behavior. Although I feel like that gave us some grit,
It
like
it
it,
did.
it gave us some resilience. Yes, a little PSTD too, but look how successful we are. Look how much we can handle. And I don't know. I go back and forth on it, but
Yeah.
that, and then I also think about, at Planned Parenthood, I really liked my boss. She was a micromanager, but she was super smart. But then, they were going dormant and they wanted me to keep, the trains running. And so I think she thought that that was me. And I'm like, well, what do you expect me to do? Like,
Mhm.
I don't have a foot to stand on. So I think it's, I don't know, I'm talking in circles, but I do think that especially them earlier days in the White House, getting evicted every month and paying the rent right before you have to go to court. One time we had to go to court, but it's like, I don't know if they realized that we were eating at happy hours because that's where the
Uh-huh.
free food was because we couldn't afford to feed ourselves. And, to me, I tell you all the time, you are so blessed to have parents that love you and that are just in a position where they can help you. Like that's hashtag goals, right? That's generational, success. And I look
I
forward
know.
to
I
giving
know.
that to my kids, but I didn't have that.
I agree.
Like I was
Yeah.
going hungry and just figuring it out, trying to
I love you,
pay rent
mommy.
with 30K.
No, it's
But
real.
yeah.
It's real because I remember, and then we were close. There was one time I lost it, and I think it was my sister. She was like, "If you don't call our parents," I was like, "I'm not gonna make it." And I was at the DNC, thought I was gonna get fired every day, wasn't getting paid no money. Then ended up quitting. It was just a mess, and just like remembering like if I have children that I want to be able to be that because otherwise it's too much. And now everything is so high and inexpensive. I'm still waiting on my grocery prices to lower. Um
Oh no,
it's
the
just
president said in the Oval Office, what was that yesterday? He said he want to be credited for cutting prices. What did he say? Cutting prices and something. I was
it's
like,
so
oh,
full of
this
shit.
man
I
is
can't.
funny.
Oh, sorry, mom.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just want to do a plug real quick though for chosen family, which y'all are to me, right?
Oh, I love that.
I did call my mom and I just needed enough for a metro to get a job, and I did get that job. And she said, "I think you've had your fun. I think you've dreamed your big, and you should just come home and get to work." And so, not everybody has a different situation. I want to just name the unglamorous one, but I had a friend whose dad was a millionaire, and I didn't know that at the time. And he was like, just come stay with me for 2 weeks. It was completely platonic. And he's like, I got an extra bedroom. I'm not going to be there. I'm studying abroad. I'm be in Italy or whatever. And I did, and I tried to pay him back. He never took it. And he was still one of my closest friends. When I went to college, I got care packages from the Children's Defense Fund where I worked.
Okay.
I'm now able to give endowments back to those programs that, supported me and gave me housing. If you have a friend who doesn't have it, or if you have a network who doesn't, be that one person who helps them make it. Because I
Yeah,
had so many of those that
Yeah,
helped me
that's
get
real.
where I needed to go.
so
Um,
many.
and so,
Mhm.
so please keep your chosen family tight, treat them lovingly, and you never know how long you're going to keep them.
Yeah, it's so true. I appreciate you both
I'm
so
so
much.
grateful for you too.
I know. I'm like, oh no, not me getting a little emotional. Okay, let's wrap. Y'all know I don't like to be crying publicly. It's not cute. Um, so before we wrap today, first of all, thank you to everyone for sticking around as we went over. This is great. And I'm already seeing requests for part two, so we'll have to figure out a time next year to do part two. Maria, there are some questions if you can put titles in the chat about bookkeeper versus CPA, all of
Mhm.
that, if you can put that in. And then while you do that, I'd like for you all to just give one piece of advice you'd offer to a woman who is here wanting to start or trying to figure out how to maintain. Amanda, you can go first while Maria puts in those titles.
Sure. I believe in you. Trust your gut. Take a risk. Failure is worth it. And you might not even fail. You might wildly succeed. So
Mm,
really bet on yourself, and create that community and chosen family to support you on your journey. It's well worth it. You will never regret making a choice that's for you.
mm, that's beautiful. Maria, oh, you're typing.
Type and she working.
She working. I can go while she goes. Um, I don't think I can say any more eloquently than Amanda. When the time is right, you'll be called and know. And I think that it's important to rely on community to help you get started. The one thing that I learned is that I was like trying to do it myself. And these two were like, ma'am, that's not how this is going to go. And I'm oldest child syndrome. So I'm like, I got it. I can do it all by myself. I don't need help. I'm good. And they were like, okay. And then Maria started saying stuff I didn't understand. And Amanda was like, this is what you start charging. You need to figure this out. And it was important to have that community to start it with. So I would say your chosen family, the people that remind you who you are a big part of why I am here. And as frustrated as I get, I couldn't be happier. So I'm grateful to y'all.
Yeah.
And my team. Oh, well, I'll do that in the wrap up. My team, I love you all. Okay. Oh, Maria, go ahead since you put it
Okay,
all in.
what am I supposed to be doing? I forgot.
Advice for someone starting out.
Oh, advice for someone starting out.
Yeah, like what's your closing? Like, what would you say to somebody who's like, Maria,
Um,
I want to start a firm. What do I do?
Find an executive coach.
What?
Um,
What if you
Executive
can
coaching.
afford
I feel
it?
like us as a community, we don't really know about executive coaching, which is different than therapy, but they just hold you accountable. You need a partner. You need someone that's gonna work with you. Um, I would say I keep a duck, and it says, don't wait until you have all your ducks in a row. Just start with one duck. So don't think you got to have it all together. I still don't have it together. And I look at this duck sometimes and I'm just like, I got
Mm,
one duck. So just do one duck at a time. Don't worry about figuring it all out at once. Just start. Just
mm,
start. And another thing that I did, I took a CFO faith class, and what I learned is that my business is God's business. And so I treat my business like one of my kids. Like it's not, I pray and I ask for direction. And when I get a little feeling, I ask for signs, pray about it, and ask God. I tell him every day, if this is not what I'm supposed to do, Lord, please bring me my job because I will gladly
okay.
go because I want what you got for me. But yeah, I would just say I have a duck. I'm doing it.
I like that
Just
response.
little inspirations that keep you going, but you don't have to have it all figured out. Build your community. Goldman Sachs, 10,000 businesses, reclaiming my time. Come on, girl. But yeah, just get you a community, girl. Get you executive coach.
That's good. I love that. Well, thank you both so much. This was amazing. This is our longest webinar. So
Of
it,
course it
of
was.
course
I
it
mean,
would
with us
be. I
coming,
should have
you.
known, but it was funny because then I was like, we don't have an end time, and I was like, you know what? Actually, let's just not because I already know that this is going to go over it in the best way. So thank you all for joining us. Shout out to Anaya. Thank you, Anaya, for helping
Thanks,
organize this.
Thank you,
Anaya.
Naya.
Taryn as well. Thank you for
Thanks,
coordinating all of our
T.
social media activity, and also just a shout out to your teams. I saw Victoria and Andrea were
Hey,
on here. We
Victoria.
keep you all together,
Thanks,
but
my glue.
will you all stay tuned? We'll send out the recording for those of you who missed it. We do send it out once we've uploaded it, and we'll keep you all posted on when we do this again. Thank you both so much for your time. I love you both, and I'm just grateful to be in this journey with you.
Yay.
I
Go
love
be
you all.
great. Go be great.
Spread your wings and fly. Thank you, everybody.
Yay.
Bye.